Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second session of the leadership class. Let's just start the slides and let's start the session. First of all, is there any questions from the previous slides, previous session? Anybody has any questions? Different types of leadership we talked about, and just want to make sure everybody is okay with the first session. Any questions? Okay, so you can stop me and pause me if you have any questions anytime. Let's go ahead and start the class. So basically the objectives of this session is to understand the different ways leadership has been defined, understand the controversy about differences between leadership and management, understand why it is difficult to assess leadership effectiveness, understand different indicators used to assess leadership effectiveness, understand aspects of leadership have studied most during the past 50 years. Okay. So first of all, what is leadership? Leadership is the behavior of an individual directing the activities of a group towards a shared goal. So, yeah, the emergent. I see a question from Mr. Miyako. What is the emergent leadership? Who can answer that? Who wants to answer this question? Who wants to answer the question of Mr. Miyako, the emergent leadership? Who remembers that? Anybody wants to answer that? Okay. So no volunteer. Okay. So emergent leadership, as we discussed, is when the leader starts with not completely launched the leadership skill set, and then after like training or after getting exposed to the situation, uh, the leader emerges. The leader basically becomes a real leader through experience. So out of the opportunity that pops up, the leader actually, uh, emerges. So, so emergent leadership is for those leaders that, because of the situation that they are in, they basically become the leader. So, so the situation basically creates the leader. It's the scenario that we are in basically defines the leader. The leader emerges out of the challenges that we face. Okay. Anybody wants to add anything to it or any questions on that so far? Okay. Yeah. So, as Mr. Kafari says, when a new leader comes out, when a new leader emerges. So, getting back to the definition of leadership, so the behavior of an individual when they are directing the activities of a group toward a shared goal is called leadership. You're welcome. So basically, as a leader, you're dealing with the behavior of your team members, of your followers. So you are there to change their behavior. The influential increment over and above mechanical compliance with the routine directedness of the organization. That is also called leadership. So, basically you give routines, but you create influential increment parts. So you make it and put it into chunks, small chunks, small routines, and every follower follows those, small routines. So everybody has to comply with certain things that needs to be done. Or the process of influencing the activities of an organizational growth toward the goal achievement. So you influence. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? Okay, very good. So for those of you who cannot hear, please increase the voice volume on your speakers, because I believe I have increased the voice to the max. So okay. Okay, I try to speak a little bit louder. Okay, is that better now? Okay, very good. So the second bullet point was about the small chunk sizes of routines that you give to your followers, and they follow those, and they basically follow the routine. Then the third bullet point is the process of influencing the activities of an organized group or the goal. So there are keywords here. First of all, you influence, then the activity, and it should be an organized group, and there is a goal to achieve. So as a leader, you want to influence, and you influence the activities that group that you have organized are performing, and that is in order to get and achieve the goal that you have set in the beginning. So we discussed that. We talked about goals in leadership. We said the leader has a vision. The leader wants to get somewhere and get the organization, the company somewhere. Everybody wants to get that. So the leader is the one who sees that, sees the future, and brings it and takes everyone to that future. And basically, we discussed that the process of influencing the activities of an organized group. So as the leader, you try to influence those activities and things that the group does in order for them to achieve that goal that you've set initially. So everybody needs to get to the vision that you have in mind, because you've shared it with them, and you're basically trying to change the behavior or influence what they do in order to get it done. And then you have about articulating visions, embodying values, and creating the environment in which things can be accomplished. So this is also very important. We talked about the vision in detail back in business strategy class. And last session we said that as a leader, you are required to have the vision in mind. You have to know and understand the vision that the company has, and you need to share it with everyone. You need to explain the vision of the company to everyone in your organization. So when you understand that vision, you're able to share it with others in the organization. You're able to share and picture the values of the company, those values that are important for the company. So let's say you are a logistic company, and what basically is your values are basically, for example, being able to promptly take or bring in the products to your receiver, like do the logistic part, sending and receiving part, being on time, or maybe in time is a little bit earlier than the time expected, and those kind of things. So basically, those values, like being on time, values like being honest, integrity, values like being responsible, reliable, that you want every single person in your organization to have and understand. You need to embody that before the eyes of your employees. So a lot of times you see that the employees complain that the management or top management or the leaders, they have not shared those values with them. And they argue that because you don't understand or you don't know exactly what you are required to do, that is why we are not on the same page. That is not, we are not doing what they expect us to do, because we don't know exactly what they want us to do, right? So it is very, very important to be able to picture those values for your employees. Be able to tell them exactly what you want them to do, rather than just, telling them. You need to picture that. You need to make them understand it. So that is one other important aspect. And then the environment that you create should be such an environment that those things could be done. Because a lot of times there are environments in the organizations and companies that employees are not able to basically perform or do what they're expected to. There's a lot of competition in the sense that people are trying to bring each other down. Instead of helping each other, instead of supporting each other, they try to hurt each other. So in that environment or in such an environment, it's not going to be possible. So you as a leader or one who is supposed to create an environment that is conducive, that is helping everyone to move forward. So it is very important for you as a leader to do all these points. Okay, any questions so far? Any comments or questions? Okay, very good. I received a message from Mr. Mobeen that he cannot hear us. Mr. Mobeen, I would say just try to reactivate your voice. If you still cannot hear us, I would just log out and log back in. Sometimes that can help. And maybe before doing all that, you could just check your speakers and your voice on your computer and make sure everything is right. Okay, we have another question from Mr. Ghaffari, mechanical compliance. Mechanical compliance is when you are having your employees to comply with basically all the routines, all the procedures, mechanical procedures in the company. So when you are giving out routines and you're asking your employees to perform in a certain way, you are requiring them to follow that procedure. So mechanical routine or mechanical compliance means following and complying with those procedures you give to your employees. And then we have another question from Mr. Samet. Influential, incremental, over and above mechanical compliance. Influential, increment, over and above means that your role as an influential part is higher than just those routines. We discussed that. We said managers are those that get things done by just telling people what to do and tell them exactly what's the procedure. But leader is supposed to be higher than that. Leader is supposed to know better than that. And as a leader, you basically not only tell them just the routines, not only just tell them the pieces, the chunks of that routine they are required to do, but also you have an influence on them. You basically give them directions. You give them inspiration and motivation, because you are responsible for your team members. It is not that you just do what you're told or tell people what to do. It's beyond that. As a leader, you are supposed to go one step above and beyond and tell them exactly, or better, instead of just telling them, sharing with them the goals, sharing with them the ideas and like destination that you're heading towards and how they can achieve that. A lot of times your employees will experience problems. They're not able to do what you want them to do. So it would be really helpful to be able to coach them along, So that's really important, to be able to coach your employees, to be able to give them direction, inspire them, motivate them, rather than just give them the routine. Okay, is that clear now? Any other questions? Are there any other questions so far? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we're continuing the definitions of leadership. As we said in the previous session, there are several definitions for leadership. Leadership has several definitions, so it's pretty broad, but we want to cover as much as we can regarding the definition, so that we understand it, no matter what culture or what organizational culture you're talking about, you still understand what is the foundation of leadership. We talked about fundamentals of leadership. So one other definition is a process of giving purpose. So direction, the collective effort and causing willing effort to be expanded to achieve purpose. Okay, as you can see, it's pretty much important to understand that as a leader, you are required to basically give purpose. This has to do a lot with the idea of goals and the idea of inspiring people regarding a vision. So you're not just telling people what to do. It's above and beyond that. Instead of just telling people what to do, which is basically what the managers do, you are required to inspire them. You are required to give them direction on how
how to get things done. So that is really helpful when you are able to do that. It really helps your team members to basically get those goals and targets that you set as a vision for all the team members possible. And then the next is the ability to step outside the culture, to start evolutionary change. So basically, as a leader, you're not just supposed to be bounded with what you have there. You should be able to see outside of the box. You should be able to bring in changes. So you're not just following what you're told, and you do more than that. And that's what is required of you as a leader. You bring evolution and change. Evolutionary change means that kind of change is not just for one single part. It changes the whole scenario. Everybody changes. It's a change that everybody understands. It's a change that everybody is able to follow. A change that is a process and not necessarily just an incident. So you cause basically the whole organization to change, and that is what is required. Not just changing one single part and everybody else will be exactly the same. You evolve. You become better according to the needs of the organization. You basically become better and help everyone get better, and that is through evolution, through a change that is possible, not just because one single personnel has changed. It's because everybody has evolved, everybody has understood the requirements, and they have changed accordingly. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. Yes, adaptive is a good one. They're adapting. They are basically complying and taking all those directives from you. Then the process of making sense of what people are doing together so that people will understand and be committed. This is also very important. A lot of times as a manager or even as a leader, when you want people to do something, you just don't want to explain to them why. You don't want to say why we need to do this. You're adding an extra paperwork, and you don't want to explain to people why. You just tell them, hey guys, from now on you do this way. And you don't bother to explain to them why. You don't bother to tell them exactly why this change has been brought to the procedure that they have been doing. And a lot of leaders, a lot of managers don't bother to think about it. When their employees don't understand why this change is happening, there's a good chance that the employees will not basically welcome that change because they don't know why. You're telling us to do something extra, to do something different from what we've been doing. And if you don't tell us why, we won't be able to, that means continue. It's like the continuation of definition slide from the first few slides. So, yeah, continue. So, is the change. The change could be in anything. You know, a lot of times there are changes, but as a leader, you make everything a leadership concern. It is not just it is not just one single change that you're talking about. You're talking about every change that happens. You need to make it clear to everyone. Okay? So it should make sense for people. People need to understand why this is required of them. Then the next one is the ability of an individual to influence, motivate, and enable others to contribute toward the effectiveness and success of the organization. Yes, we can absolutely lead them in any situation for that way. You don't have to bring in changes. You could, leadership is about change. Leadership is about making people perform and making people get things done and basically realize the goals that they're required to do. So that is leadership. But you don't have to necessarily change everything. A lot of times you just follow the same way you was, but you just do it differently. But you just help people understand better. You help them perform better. So leadership is not just about changes. It's about the way you do it. So you might be doing exactly the same thing that the previous manager or the previous person in charge was doing, but the only difference is that you do it differently. You do it in a way that people understand why they're doing it and basically understand the values, and they are making sense of what they're doing, so they do it better. So they do the same thing, but they just do it better, and it's because of your leadership, your successful leadership. Okay. You're welcome, Mr. Huffman. So, leaders versus followers. All groups have role specialization, so does leadership. So, basically, we have this idea of leader versus follower. So, when you are a leader, you stand out in that group. You are someone that is followed, and all your employees are actually following you. So in this view, more attention is paid to the attributes that determine the selection of designated leader. So in this concept of the followership, in this concept of people, employees following the leader, you're focusing on the aspect of, attributes that the leader has. Like, let's say you have a charismatic leader, the leader has certain attributes, the leader needs to be firm, authoritative, needs to be loud, and basically be able to, make people understand exactly what they're required to do and all that. And basically, in that sense, everybody will follow the procedure or the routine that the leader gives out. So people will just follow according to the leader's, directives. So that is when you have those attributes, and that is and everybody's following you. So you have a specialized role. So in viewing leadership, in terms of an influence process that occurs naturally within a social system. So in a sense, leader expresses achievements intentionally or naturally. Basically both. A lot of times, I mean, definitely you naturally and just normally do your leadership roles, but many times you need to be intentional. You need to do certain things just for a certain purpose. So basically, it's a little bit of both. It's not either or, but it's both. So in terms of an influence process that occurs naturally within a social system. So it's good to look at the organizations with the social perspective as well. So it's not just the organization with certain aspect and you just look at it in a mechanical way. It's a social system as well because you are dealing with people. Those machines, let's say it's an industrial company. It's basically you're creating machines and everything. But who is doing that? Those are the employees. So employees are getting things done. So you're dealing with people. So whenever you're dealing with people, you have that social system going on. And whenever you have social system, you need to be able to influence their behaviors as a social process or pattern of relationship rather than just a specialized role. So this will be different from the first one that you just have certain attributes and people will follow you. In this one, you're looking at a social system, which is the relationships between everyone in that organization. And you are the one who is managing those relationships. You're the one who is basically getting things done according to those relationships. You're the one who influences, who makes changes on those relationships. So it's a social system, it's a social process that's going on all the time. And you would be the one who makes changes. Have people adapt to the system, have people understand the system, get involved in the system, and participate. So all these are important. It's not just you tell them exactly what to do and they just get it done. It's beyond that. You help them understand the system and be part of it rather than just individually do something that is required. It's not just a routine that they type in something and something gets done. They understand the whole situation. They become part of a relationship system. They become part of that social group. And it's that behavior that is required, not just the action. The activity is the result of a certain behavior. When you understand why you need to be on time, why you need to be at the position you're given to in the company right at a certain time every single day, when you understand that, you will adapt and create a behavior. Your behavior would be being on time. So understanding that will help you to be on time on everything, not just be at work like at 8 a.m. in the morning, but you understand that being on time is something required of you in that system. So it's not just getting there at 8 o'clock. When you get there at 8 o'clock, you know that you need to deliver that job you have on hand at 9 o'clock. You know that your next, when you get your lunch break, when it's from, let's say, 12 to 1, you know that 1 o'clock, sharp on 1, you've got to be back and start working. So you understand the system, the behavior, and that behavior is something you adapt. And that's leadership. That's leadership. You help your employees understand, make sense of what they're told, and they create that behavior, and they follow that. You would create patterns of behavior. We express the attributes intent. I have another question from Mr. Faisal. What means? Are you talking about this behavioral change part, or are you talking about? Which part is your question? Regard. Can you explain a little bit about your question, because I don't understand it fully? So according to this viewpoint, various leadership functions may be carried out by different people who influence what the group does, how it is done, and the people in the group interact with each other. So this viewpoint is based on different functions. It's not just you doing those functions. It's a group of people, because it's a system, it's a social system. So people in that group, they interact with each other to get things done. So exercise of influence resulting in enthusiastic commitment by followers versus indifferent compliance or reluctant obedience. So in this type of leadership, which is in the type of influence process, you have two ways, two practices. Yeah, Mr. Faisal, I didn't understand your question. Can you tell me what is your question again? By he, you mean the leader, right? So the leader changes leadership style according to people. Is that what you're asking? Are you talking about this social system type of leadership, and you're saying that, you're suggesting that the leader, according to the employees, will change the strategies? Okay. So if that is your question, yes. As I mentioned, you're dealing with behaviors. So, and you're dealing with people, and it's like a social and relationship type of management. So you basically try to make people understand why they're doing something, and they adapt to that, and stuff like that. So yes, in a certain sense, yes, they basically accordingly they will change. Okay. So moving on, you try to influence by creating an enthusiastic commitment by your followers. So it's not just an indifferent compliance or reluctant obedience. You don't want your employees or followers just to obey you because they're told so. You don't want them to just follow what they're told. You want them to be beyond that. You want them to do some certain things, not just because of the requirements, but because of because of their understanding, because of their commitment. So a lot of aspects are involved in that sense. So if you just tell your employees do certain things and you don't make them understand and they don't make sense of it, they just follow because they know if they don't do it, they'll be in trouble. But your role, your job is to make sure they understand that, so that they just don't do it because of fear. They just don't do it because they think they have to do it, but because they are inspired enough that they commit themselves to what you ask them to do. So that will be a leadership. And a lot of times, when you just force your employees to do something without them understanding why, the leaders will basically use certain powers, and they are not supposed to. They use them unethical. in an unethical way. So unethically, they basically do that. They just force people by terrifying them by basically creating that fear that if you don't do it, you get fired, stuff like that. So that is not helpful. That is not helping the organization. The influence of the leader is a mix of cost and benefit. So as a leader, when you're influencing people, you are using a mixture of costs and benefits. And acts of leadership often have multiple motives. You as a leader have several motives. You have several inspirations in you, the causes you do things. Some motives could be selfless or selfish. A lot of times as a leader, you might be selflessly having people do something or selfishly, And basically our focus on the purpose of influence is those that are selfless. As a leader, you need to be able to catch yourself, your preferences, and be able to ask people to do stuff not just because you like it that way, because you think that's the right way. So it's beyond being selfish. You're selfless. You treat yourself as a social family, social organization. You treat yourself as a company, and instead of just you, being stuck in your preferences, you basically help your team members understand why they're required to do certain stuff. The result could be cognitive process or emotion. This is also very important. A lot of times leaders just use emotional aspects. They inspire people with regard to their emotions. When you talk to your employees, when you coach them, you tell them about certain things they did it wrong. So you try to emotionally inspire them sometimes. Give them hope, give them inspiration. That is emotional. But a lot of times you use arguments, you use analogies, you help them understand certain processes, and that will be cognitive process, not just emotion. You help them, follow the step-by-step analysis. They need to understand step 1, 2, 3, 4 in order to do that certain task and be successful. In that sense, you're using cognitive analysis and not just emotional inspiration. But you need both, You need both in order to be successful. In order to be able to coach your employees, just don't have to stick to cognitive process. Just don't have to be argumentative all the time. You don't have to just tell them because of this and that, you need to do that and just explain to them. Sometimes you need to inspire them. And that's not necessarily any argument. It's just a motivation. It's just an inspiration. Hey, Joe, you did a good job on that. That was great. It helped. And you basically are not addressing any certain understanding about, that process, but you're just giving them encouragement. So that's emotional, and that's fine. You can do that. So leaders can lead directly or indirectly. That is very important. A lot of times leaders think they have to just directly tell their employees all the time, I want you to do this, and that's what they do. But a lot of times, it's not just by, directly telling people what to do. Sometimes you are basically using indirect ways to coach people. Okay? So you interact with them. So one of them is cascading. Cascading is what the book actually has explained, in the sense that cascading is you basically project the activities and what they are supposed to do in certain patterns, and you group them into certain individual jobs and link them all together. So it's more of, it's just based on a simile of, when the water is falling downward, it's just covering everything. So it's in cascading, you do the same kind of thing. You try to cover all different aspects of those activities when you're dealing with your employees. You help them understand different aspects, and it's like as fluid as water. It covers everything and goes all the way down to the bottom. So from the very top to the bottom, everybody has aligned their performance according to what they're required to. So it's a very harmonious work together, So we call it cascading. For formal programs, you create formal programs, like for every single department, you come up with a certain program, with a certain routines and patterns, and they just stick to that and follow that. A good example of formal programs are those companies that are doing the, total quality management. Like everybody's coaching each other back and forth and doing it. And then organization. Yeah, cascading, I was just explaining. It's like just pouring water from the top to bottom. Everybody from top to bottom is on the same page, and they just follow the routines accordingly. They understand everything, and everybody's harmoniously working together. That is cascading, from top to bottom. So you try to cover all the aspects of that certain activity that you want to get done. When you're working on certain machine that is just introduced to the company and everybody needed to understand the performance, you make sure that every single person with their positions and their tasks are able to understand what they're required to do. Yeah, kind of like ladder steps. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and you start from the bottom all the way to the top. And then organizational culture, that's pretty much the most important one, because the culture you create in the organization is a culture that you will help you perform, will help you do certain things in a certain way. So your organizational culture is the key in being successful or unsuccessful. So you need to understand that you're dealing with an organization. The culture, which is the dominant culture in that organization, is what drives people in that organization. Is what helps people to succeed or be unsuccessful. It's what helps people understand and make sense of the activities in the organization. Because when they have that culture, and everybody in that organization is adapted to that certain culture, that organizational culture, it's easy for them to analyze everything because they are setting it according to the organizational culture that they already have. You are just doing things with regard to the culture of the organization. When there's a change in the organization, you always look at your organizational culture. Is it in line with your culture, or is it something that is not expected of with that type of culture that you have? Is it something that everybody having that culture will basically welcome, or is something against those values that you have in your organization? These are really important. So you have leadership versus management. So as a manager, the value stability, and efficiency, you need to stabilize the values and then order the efficiencies of those personnel. They need to be efficiently doing and performing their job. And the values should be stabilized. They need to understand the values of those activities, and they should be consistently following those expectations. The levels, should be at a certain level. Then it should be impersonal. Management is impersonal. So you're not dealing with people. We have been talking about emotional aspects. We have been talking about, I see a question from Mr. Muhammad Aziz regarding organizational culture. So organizational culture, every organization has different culture. Like Apple, in their organizational culture, they focus on creativity. They focus on teamwork. So these are values of the organization. Every single organization has certain values that they focus on. The organization is actually recognized with those values. And then getting back to manager, we are comparing managers with leaders. So managers that focus just on the stability, efficiently, everything needs to be done efficiently, and they are impersonal. They are not, sure you're welcome, they are not getting in touch as much as a leader. They are not getting personal as much as a leader does, right? I mean, the emotional part, just the motivational part. It's not their job. Their job is just to tell people what to do, and they just do it and get it done. And they're risk averse. They don't like taking risks. They try to stay away from risks as much as they can. And they are focused on short-term results. They focus on short-term results rather than long-term results. Impersonal, as I was explaining, Ms. Barry, is you're not getting personal with your employees. You're not dealing with emotional, motivational, inspirational aspect as much as a leader. You just focus on things that you want your employee to do rather than help them understand, rather than help them emotionally like what they do, rather than coach them one-to-one. You just tell people the routines and they just do it. That's impersonal. But personal is when you just engage that certain employee as a leader. You help them get motivated, help them move forward. So that's personal. That's what the leader does. So basically, the leader is dealing with value, flexibility, innovation, and adaptation. So the leader, you are not just dictating values like stability we talked for managers, but for leaders, you have that flexibility. People are able and a lot to do it differently in their own way because you are the leader. You are the one who sets the rules, and you are flexible, so they can be flexible. You give people chance to come up with new ways. That's how innovation grows. People adapt because change is happening all the time, and you're encouraging change. So in order to encourage change, you need to welcome change. And when you welcome change, change really happens. People in your organization will come up with ideas that bring about change. So care about people as well as economic outcomes. So as a leader, you're not just dealing with, this is the personal part. When it was managerial part, it was just dealing with results, dealing with what you need to expect. But when it comes to basically leader, you are personal, and that's why you don't just care about economic side, but you care about that certain employees' feelings, certain employees' situations. You're more personal. You're just more in touch. You're more involved in the process. Have longer-term perspective. Managers are concerned about doing things right, whereas the leaders are concerned about doing the right thing. So that's the difference. That's really important. You're looking at the big picture. You're looking at the vision, which is in front of you, which is ahead of you, and you're trying to get your employees, your staff, just move forward to that direction. That's what you as a leader does. But as a manager, you just don't care that much or as much as a leader about the future or the whole picture. You just want to do things right there where you are in a way that you're told. You just want to get things done according to the routines. You don't really care as much as a leader in order to see the future and see where you're taking your employees. leaders should be social, that's true. We have been focusing on the social system as well, yes. Leaders should have a vision, but managers, managers, they better do have a vision also, but that's true. The leader is the one who basically knows the vision of the company and basically is taking everyone there and helping everyone understand that vision, helping everyone make sense of that vision and understand why people are required to do that. Rather than just telling people what to do, you basically share with them your visions. So what leaders can influence? The leaders can influence the choice of objectives and strategies to pursue. So when you are involved, when you are dealing in coaching with your staff, you help them choose different objectives and strategies. So as a leader, yeah, that's a good one. Mr. Solomon says, manager imitate, but leader originate. That's very true, and that's a very good point. I like that. You originate. You basically originate new ways. You originate new strategies. But as a manager, you just follow what they are told, and you do it exactly the same way you saw it being done. So managers and leaders come up with new things. They are the source. Okay? The motivation of the members to achieve the objectives. You motivate your members to achieve their objectives. You have a mutual trust and cooperation for the members. The organization and coordination of work activities. The allocation of resources to activities and objectives. That is also true. Manager accepts the status quo, but the leader is challenging it all the time. Then the mutual trust and cooperation of the members. You create a mutual trust in between everyone. You try to make sure that everyone trusts each other. The relationship in the organization is based on trust rather than just, fear. And the allocation of resources to activities and objectives. You try to allocate the resources to activities. You try to make sense of the relationship between resources and activities. You try to make sure that certain resources, there are certain activities that they take care of them, and they're related to each other. Okay? Any questions so far? Slide 11, you have a question on that? Okay, let's get back to it. So yes, slide 11, we were talking about doing things right and doing the right thing. So managers are just dealing with that certain activity that they're dealing with. They don't really care as much as the leader for doing the right thing, because that thing that they're doing, the way they're doing, they might be just following the routine, but it might be wrong. It might not be what they have to do. But as leader, you might even change what you're doing right now. Even though your procedure, even though your, the process tells you do it that way, but that might not be really the best way. So you basically create something new if there is a need for it. And You care about people, you involve them, you're more flexible, you allow changes, you allow different strategies for your employees. They do it their own way, and you look at bigger perspectives. You just don't look at the short term. You look at the longer term perspective. So we were at allocation of resources and to activities and objectives. Development of members' skills and confidence. You always try to build your members' confidence. You always try to help them create skills, get skills they need, their skill sets that help them succeed. Learning and sharing of knowledge by members. Members need to share their knowledge with each other. They need to learn from each other. They need to coach each other. It's not just an individualistic system. You make it in a way that everyone is connected to each other. Everyone is helping out. Everyone is coaching the other person. And the enlistment of support and cooperation from outsiders. So support comes from outside as well. It's not just that certain group that they're assigned that project that they're working on. Sometimes outsiders could come in and help and suggest. As I mentioned, it's more flexible. The design of formal structure, programs, and systems. Enlistment means being part of, to be listed in. So they enlist, they register, they enroll, they become part of that. So you involve support and cooperation. You get support and cooperation from people from the outside. And then the shared beliefs and values of members. Everyone in the group have a certain value, and they share it with each other. So that's part of the vision part. You as the leader make sure that everyone shares the same value, the same vision, the same goal. Everybody's moving towards the same direction. And the extent of enhancement of the term of the team. So you enhance the team, you improve the team all the time. You make sure that you're helping a team to move towards success. You're measuring all the time their performance, and you're trying to help them improve those parts that they're missing out. So sales, net profits, profit margin, market share, return on investment, everything, every single point, you help them do better. Those parts that they could do better, you help them do better. Productivity, value of corporate stock, all those, they could be better, and you help them get better. Followers' attitudes and perception of the leader. So you try and make sure that your followers' attitude are correct. Their understanding of leadership is correct. So it's not just about they following you. They need to understand your role as a leader. And when they understand that, when they have a right perception of the leader, they follow you accordingly. So they change their attitude. It's more of a behavioral change. They understand why they need to follow you, why they need to do certain tasks, and they make that change internally. And they do it because they believe it's right. So they change their understanding, their perception. It's not just that you tell them do this and they just do it like managers do. But you tell them do something and you explain to them why. You explain to them benefits, the positive side of that change, and they understand it. And you motivate them to move towards that change. So leaders' contribution to the quality of the group processes perceived by others. So they need to contribute to the quality. They need to contribute to that change. It's not that they just understand the change and let the change happen. Don't resist it. Don't resist the change. It's just the first step. The next steps would be to contribute to that change, to be part of that change, to help everyone make that change possible. So it's not just that you don't resist the change and let the change happen and others do the job and just watch out there. you would be part of that team. You will just hop on and move forward with the team and make sure that those changes that you understood, that you were resisting, now you're not anymore. And not only that, you also contribute to the change to happen. You also make sure that that change is moving forward. So successful career as a leader. So you, not only you would be the leader, that team member will become a leader. Every single person in that company will become a leader. Because they understand the same vision that you have, and they're promoting the same ideas that you have. So everyone will be like you. Everyone is moving towards success. Everyone is measuring the shortcomings, and everyone is trying to make out and catch up with what's missing. If you are missing on certain quality performance, or you're missing on certain profit margin, or if you're missing on certain sales techniques, you as a team member, you will be also a leader, because you are committed enough, because you understand the goals and perspective and vision enough, and you are inspired enough to move forward with the same concept. Okay? Any questions so far? Any questions or comments? Okay, let's move forward. So, look at this. As a leader, when you have chain of behaviors, you have something like this. You inspire. There's a mistake here. That's vision. Instead of A, there should be S. So you inspire the vision. You tell people about the vision, right? And followers' effort will be changing. So your followers will put effort in that vision that you inspire them on. And at the bottom, you do training and coaching. Every team member is training and coaching. You're training and coaching them, and they are training and coaching each other. And it will build their skills. All that will improve the quality and productivity, and it will increase the profits of the unit. It's pretty simple. As you can see, you inspire, they put effort. You coach, you create skills. They all together, their effort with their skills, create quality and performance and productivity, and then everybody profits. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but important, and a lot of people don't understand it and don't do it. Because you might be the leader, just tell people do it. Doesn't help. You got to be involved. You got to inspire them. You got to be part of the team. And you make sure your employees are putting enough effort. And then you train them when they need training. And give them skills they need. And it improves the quality and productivity, and everybody profits. So basically, the characteristics of the leader, the personality, the traits, the motives, the value, integrity, and moral development. What are their values? Whether if the leader has integrity or not. Whether they're confident, whether they have optimism, whether they're positivist, whether they just see the positive side all the time, or they're negative people. And then they have skills and expertise. Those skills that you require. And then leadership behavior. That was vision, as I mentioned. That was a typo. It's V-I-S-O-N, vision. So I make sure in the slide I'll send you, I'll fix that. So skill and expertise and leadership behavior. That was vision, right? Then leadership behavior, influence tactics, attributions about followers, and mental models. All those are parts that are important when it comes to your characteristics as a leader. So as a leader, you have beliefs, you have assumptions. Okay? So, yes, I will absolutely send it to you after we finish the class. Look. So, basically, you have belief system, you have assumptions, then you have attributions about followers. Like you have certain tributes that you give to your followers, and they follow that. And then you influence certain tactics that they are using. Your followers, your employees, your staff, they have tactics, and you help them follow those tactics and use those tactics. You have a leadership behavior. So your behavior as a leader, your leadership as a behavior, your behavior as a leader means a lot. The last two ones, are you talking about mental models and attributions? So mental models is your beliefs, your assumptions. So you make sure that your employees have mental models, their assumptions, their beliefs, their definitions of everything is correct. As a leader, you got to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Everybody's following and understanding what they are supposed to follow. Then you have certain attributions about followers. You have certain understanding about your followers also. You make sure those are correct. You use and influence leadership behavior. Leadership behavior is your behavior because you are bringing change in the staff's behavior. So when you want to do that, you yourself have to bring change in your behavior. So you need to have that leadership behavior, which is change behavior, which is welcoming change behavior. And then the skills and expertise. Traits means trends, ways. Then skills and expertise. You have skills, you have skill sets that you need to have, and your employees also need to have. Then you have confidence and optimism. And then values, integrities, and moral development. And finally, the motives. The change behavior. The leadership behavior is change behavior. Is that of welcoming change. Is that of understanding the vision and moving towards it. That is called change leadership behavior. Yeah, leadership characteristics are those characteristics that define the leader. But leadership behavior is everyone has to have the behavior of a leader. Everyone has to be like a leader. Everyone should be a leader in himself or herself. So not only you, but all your team members have to have that leadership behavior, have to have that way of understanding each other, motivating each other, inspiring each other, and welcome change and move towards change. Everyone has to basically understand the vision. So leadership characteristics, though, are single characteristics that the leader has. But the behavior is the behavior that the leader shows. Okay? And the followers also. The followers, they have their self-concepts, their needs, the values. They need to understand the values. They have certain needs. They have certain understanding. They need to have confidence and optimism, same like leaders, skills and expertise. They have attributions about the leader, understandings about the leader. They identify themselves with the leader, and they commit themselves to the task they are assigned. They commit themselves to the effort. That's correct, Mr. Faisal. The leader has his own behavior, but leadership behavior is something that he wants to have because he's role-playing as a leader. Then satisfaction with the job and the leader. So you got to make sure your followers are satisfied. Cooperation and mutual trust. They need to cooperate and have trust. And characteristics of the situation. The type of organization, unit, what type of unit you are in, what type of department, size of the organization, position of power and authority of the leader. Where is the power and authority of the leader coming from? Task structure and complexity. So the task structure defines, the task, and then the complexity, the difficulty. What is the level of complexity of your organization? Then organizational culture, we talked about it. The culture of the organization is really important because it shows the values of the organization. He needs to know his authority. He should not abuse or use it in a wrong way, his power. So his power should be controlled. The leader is not going to abuse his power, but he's supposed to use that authority in order to motivate each other and the team. And then environmental uncertainty and change. We've talked about the change that is happening all the time. So that change, environmental change, has to be helping the organization to surmount those difficulties. What are some leadership behaviors? Leadership behaviors we talked about: welcoming change, inspiring the team members, motivating them, understanding them, coaching them, be involved, be present, be flexible. These are all several topics that we talked about. The leader is supposed to be able to see the vision, have a long-term understanding of the situation, not just where you are. You got to see future. You have to see the big picture. Don't just look at the numbers, but look at the personnel also. External dependencies and constraints. So what are those limitations that you have? External limitations. And then national cultural values. So we did talk about different approaches, though. We talked about trait approach. Trait approach is just the ways you approach things, like certain traits. Or you have behavior approach. Behavior approach is when you change the behavior. You have a certain behavior, and you try to make followers follow those behaviors. We have power influence behavior approach. When you have the power, you put influence on your employees, and you approach your employees in that sense. You have situational approach. Situational approach is according to the situation, according to the context. You basically, go ahead. And then integrative approach. Integrative approach is where you basically try to integrate. You try to involve everyone. You try to be part of the process. So, you're part of the team. It's like holistic approach. You have a big picture, you're part of that picture, and you all together move along. So that is integrative approach. So basically, as a leader, you don't just use one of them, but we did not see the topic of the slides. What are they? They're not the same colors. The topics are in black, so it just is covered with red. Situational approach is when you just look at the situation. You go along the situation and move accordingly to the situation. Okay? So let's have a task. Okay. According to your understanding and experience, what is the difference between a leader and a manager? Okay. So please tell me, according to your experience, according to your understanding of the topics we discussed in the class today, what is the difference between a leader and a manager? So you can use the stuff that we talked about today, and also you can use your understanding and your experiences. Okay? So please take a moment, just think about it, start writing answers, and then we discuss it in a few minutes. Okay? Any questions on the task? Yes. So just a couple minutes. Try to be more comprehensive. Just don't talk about one aspect. Generally, what's the difference between leader and basically the manager? Okay, so let's take a look at your answers. Let's just start from here. Okay, leader is directing a group of people toward achieving a goal. In case manager is making a group of people to achieve that goal. So direction and supervising. Managers have employees, leaders, even followers. Managers react to change, leaders create change. Managers have good ideas, leaders implement them. Managers communicate, leaders persuade. Managers direct growth, leaders create change. Managers try to be heroes, leaders make heroes. That's very good. Managers take credit, leaders take responsibility. Managers are focused, leaders create shared focus. Very good. Managers exercise power over people, leaders develop power with people. Very good. Leaders take care of people and managers take care of work. Managers deal with routine activities while leaders think of and do long-term activities. Managers deal with routine activities while leaders think and do things long-term activities. Managers administers, the leader innovates leadership, and management must go hand in hand. They are not the same thing, but they are necessarily linked and complementary. Any effort to separate the two is likely to cause more problems than solve. Managers' job is to plan, organize, and coordinate. Leaders' job is to inspire and monitor. Leader brings changes, managers like stability. Leader gives the vision and managers his subordinates in order to achieve the vision. Leaders are innovative and always bring new ideas, ways to achieve the goal. And then the manager focuses on systems and structure. The leader focuses on people. Manager has his or her eye always on the bottom line. The leader's eyes on the horizon. Okay. The leaders try to get others adapt to behavior. And attributes it has special value of his organization. Managers doesn't. He tries to get support from all outside and inside, unlimited thinking for support. He get others on the right way. The manager goes on certain procedures and policies. The leader is directing a group of people toward achieving a goal. Case manager is making a group of people to achieve that goal. Managers take credit. Leaders take responsibility. Managers are focused. Leaders create shared focus. Managers take responsibility. Managers maintain, leader develops. Managers deal with low-level activities while leaders deal with high-level. There's a form of management. Yes, very good. The last point, leaders, we discussed that in the first session, though, that the leaders are not necessarily born. There are people, like even the one type of leadership you have, emergent leadership, is according to the situation you become a leader. So it's not necessarily true that you are born as a leader. You could be learning leadership as well. So it's not necessarily true, that one. But very good point. Yes, that's great. Yeah. So any questions so far? Any comments or questions? That's very good. Yeah. Anybody has any question for this session? Okay. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for participating in the class. Yes, I will make sure I send the slides in advance, and today I'll send you right after the class. So, okay, sure, no problem. And you have a beautiful week, and see you next week in the class. Yes, we will talk about your group assignment and group projects in the next few sessions, and we'll have some grouping soon. Thank you so much, Mr. Faisal. Thank you. And thanks, everyone. I'll see you next week.